Milwaukee Bucks, no Middleton. Phoenix Suns, no KD, but it's a potential finals preview. What did we learn about these two teams on Tuesday night? Plus, are any of the top four seeds in the West going to make the NBA Finals? We play real or fake. And later on, when you give up a 52-10 run in a game, we got to ask, what the hell is up with the New Orleans Pelicans? It's all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I started dancing and my background just crapped out on me. It wasn't that bad.
The dancing was not good, huh?
It's okay, there it goes. Okay, I stopped dancing and it went back. I guess the lesson here is the off-camera dancing upsets my camera. That's okay. Well, hey, welcome to the Wednesday show. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then you should be. On Wednesdays, we're your regular Locked On NBA hosts. I'm John Karalis. I host the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter at NOLA. Jake, I'm going to have a lot to say in the third segment of today's show.
Whew. Boy, your Pelicans were supposed to, and I know they've had injuries and all of that stuff in Zion. It's like another lost season, but come on. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. So we'll talk about that later. In the second segment, we'll talk about the West and, hey, Denver at the top of the West, lost fourth straight game. Phoenix, fourth, trying to make a run. No KD for foreseeable future. They lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Are any of the top four teams in the West actually going to make the NBA Finals? We play our game of real or fake. And we'll start with the Bucks and the Suns. First, I do have to tell you that this show is available on every podcasting app that exists. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast. This show is brought to you by the Ultimate Basketball GM Game. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise, then this is the game for you. Download the game at ultimatebasketballgm.com. Look for it on the app stores. You get a 100% free boost to your franchise when you use the promo code Locked On. Make sure it's all caps when you play the game. So the Milwaukee Bucks going to Phoenix, win again. As a Boston guy, that is problematic for the Boston Celtics and really is solidifying the Milwaukee Bucks now as a top seed. They are the first team, Jake, to clinch an official playoff spot with this win. They're 50th of the season. They are 50-19. So first of all, hey, congratulations, Milwaukee Bucks. Nice job. The Bucks are they've been on a heater. They've won 8 of their last 10. They've won 2 in a row after. I've lost count of how many of their games they've won. They've basically won everything in March, and
they're good.
They're separating themselves.
Yeah, they are. I need to continue my Bucks apology tour from last week.
A double serving of crow?
Yeah, pretty much. And wow. I mean, there's nothing else you could say. Like, when you and I were planning out the show, it's like, let's look at this game. Then I hadn't realized Kevin Durant wasn't going to play. And so it kind of like took me out of this one a little bit. And as I started watching it, you forget that the Phoenix Suns are still really good even before they added Kevin Durant to it. And then that's a really talented team with Devin Booker, who's kind of quiet in the first half, coming out and being like, no, I'm going to try and see what I can do here to lead them. And they withstood it. Like the Suns took the lead, and then at the end of this one, they still basically won by double digits. And you're like, oh, that Bucks team, who's doing it without Middleton, right? Who's a hero the other night for him too. This team is just good. Like they're, in my opinion, the clear number 1 seed right now in the NBA and should be the title favorite. They're in a hostile environment on the road. Yeah, no Kevin Durant, but again, that Suns team is good, and they're like, nope, no problem.
Yeah, they came in and look, Giannis has that inevitability about him, and he only shot 14 of 24 from the line, but oh my God, 24 free throws. And every time I looked up, it was just Giannis driving, Giannis getting fouled, Giannis driving, Giannis getting fouled. And okay, he's supposed to hit more than 58% of his free throws, but when you shoot him at that volume, you make 14, that's enough. But you're also getting your team into the bonus, and you're helping your team. You're helping your teammates score. So Giannis not only has 8 assists, but I didn't even look to see how many bonus free throws after all of his free fouls that he's drawn, puts his teammates on. It just puts a lot of pressure on the other team.
That's the big part, right? Like the other guys didn't take a ton of free throws in this game, but like it forces the Suns and the opponent to defend a certain way, right? You can't kind of get into guys and do what you do. And then on the flip side, right, the Bucks are doing that. They're so good defensively. You have Drew Holiday, who's probably, one of the best defensive players in the league, and having that kind of pressure at the point of attack, a guy that can guard wings, guards, bigs, and just do it all, right? Like he shot poorly in this one. He wasn't good offensively. 4-14, under 30%, and he's still a plus 20 because of the defense that he brings and what he does. And it's just, man, everything just works so well together.
It does. And for the Bucks, it's honestly, so obviously there's Giannis, right? And I love doing they have their superstar, but there's also this one guy who's their most important player outside of the obvious one. And to me, that's Brook Lopez.
Yes.
Brook Lopez ties the entire thing together for them. And the way he's been playing, look, 21 points, 10 rebounds, has a couple of steals, a block, many more shots changed. He is the reason they can play the defense that they play. And he is a guy that you tend to, he tends to find himself open a lot because you just say, hey, I'm going to deal with it. But he also puts pressure on the defense because he's willing to take the threes. You have to react to the threes. And it just adds that element of there's one more thing we have to worry about. And it just lets the rest of the team play so comfortably off of him. The addition of Jay Crowder has been helpful. It's going to be tough. I'm watching the Celtics kind of struggle through this part of March, and I'm watching the Milwaukee Bucks kind of plow through this part of March, and the Bucks are doing exactly what they should be doing, and the rest of the competition, the Philly, the Sixers are just too far away, and the Celtics are getting in their own way, and so it's getting to a point now where we're at 13 games left, a 3-game lead. The Celtics and the Bucks play at the end of the month. It's their last game against each other, and it's for the tiebreaker. There's a little bit of wiggle room, just a tiny bit of wiggle room there for the Celtics to make a run, but they
we'll talk about it in the third.
they just lost to the Rockets. So I can't sit here and say I expect anything when the Bucks go into Phoenix, regardless of who is out. They still held off a tough Phoenix team with Devin Booker playing well, with Chris Paul, with guys like Campaign giving a boost off the bench, and they built a lead. They built a big lead. They absorbed the punch, and then they closed strong. That's championship level basketball, man. It's championship level basketball.
No, I agree with you, right? It's not like they won by a point. They won by 12 in the end. Like they took that best punch and were like, nope, didn't knock us down. We're good. I mean, if you're Phoenix, and I know we're running out of time in this bit here, like I'm fairly encouraged by this one, right? You kind of look at this and you're looking for a silver lining, being like, they took the lead in the fourth quarter. Like they made a run, they did well, and they did it without Kevin Durant. And their role players definitely play better when he's out there on the court. At times you're like, oh, they're kind of thin and they need some depth. And then you see them with Kevin Durant recently. You're like, oh, those guys work well around him because a superstar does that. I'll talk about that in another segment at times. And yeah, I don't know. We'll talk more about Phoenix in the next segment too.
Yeah, we focus a lot on Milwaukee right now because Phoenix is part of this next segment where the top 4 seeds, Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, and Phoenix, all have a very big reason to not make the finals. Will any of them actually make it to the finals? We're going to play a game of real or fake when we come back. You should be playing a game of Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. So that is a game where you can live out your dream of becoming an NBA GM, managing your basketball franchise, and do everything like hire coaches, hire assistants, trade players, train them, make your draft picks, navigate your franchise through free agency. I mean, it's all encompassing. You have to upgrade your stadium. It's got everything you want to run a team All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free, which we all love free, and playable offline, which I think is the best part of the game, because it doesn't matter if I'm on a plane traveling to a game or somewhere without good Wi-Fi. I just turn this on. It's great. It's addicting, and you can play as you want when you want. We've been doing this with the Locked On hosts, and I did not do well. I think we got some back-to-back championships on the Bulls side. So congrats to the Bulls for winning something. Hey, you can live out your fantasy on the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. Locked On NBA listeners get a 100% free boost to the franchise when you use the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check that out. Download the game at probasketballgm.com. Scan the code or look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM, start your dynasty today. I want to thank everybody for listening to Locked On NBA. You're on this feed. You probably saw another podcast there. If you haven't listened to it yet, Locked On Game to Game. We're talking about broad, big picture stories here. Locked On Game to Game. You want to get both sides of that Suns Bucks story. You want to get both sides of what's happening on all of these other games. Catch up on the entire league. Locked On Game to Game is the place to do it. So we're playing a game, Jake Madison, out west. We have the number 1 seed Denver Nuggets losing again in this one. We have the Memphis Grizzlies not playing. They've won 3 in a row, but obviously with their issues. Brandon Clark out with the ACL tear. John Morant getting whatever help he needs, and hopefully that works for him. Sacramento Kings are the Sacramento Kings. No one trusts them. They're a great story. Everybody loves them. Everybody's having fun with them. And then everybody's at the end going, oh, cute. That's cute. And then the Phoenix Suns, who got Kevin Durant and who sprained his ankle in warmups and, has only played a couple of games for them. We don't know. Obviously, plug and play. We don't know what they're going to be. So, Jake, we have those 4 teams as the top 4 seeds. Warriors are behind them. The Clippers. Dallas is somewhere in the play-in game. Hell, the Lakers are in the play-in hunt right now. The question, the real or fake question is, real or fake? None of the top 4 seeds, not one of them, will make the NBA Finals.
I'm actually going to go fake on this. I think one of them will. And we talked about this on the show last week for my reasoning why on this one. Every team other than one in the Western Conference is terrible on the road. On the road. Home court advantage right now is going to be so unbelievably important in the Western Conference playoffs. Denver Nuggets, 16-17. Grizzlies, 13-21. The Kings, the lone team with a winning record, are 19-13.
I love that Suns, so much.
It's amazing. The Suns, 15-20. The Warriors, right, have the weirdest splits we've ever seen. And I know they just beat the Suns. 7-26 on the road. If it goes to a game 7 and they're not the home team, do you feel that confident in them? Clippers are 500, right? Minnesota's got a losing record. The Thunder, nope. Dallas, nope. Lakers, nope. No one other than the Kings has a winning record on the road in the West. This is like if you were to go straight chalk in March Madness, right? And just take all like the 1 seeds. But when you look at that, like home court seems pretty important. Like even Denver, who I don't love right now on a 4-game losing streak. I don't know, man. Game 7 at home versus a team that's not the Kings, and I'm probably taking Denver.
Yeah, I'm tempted, and the reason I asked the question this way is because the Warriors right now are 5th, and that's where you think, man, maybe they turn things around. Now, there's still something to figure out there with Andrew Wiggins out for personal reasons, and he's been away for a while. And if he's not back, then I think they're going to struggle against the better teams. The Clippers are there, and I don't trust anybody. Dallas, I think, is just done. I don't trust them. I don't trust Kyrie. Lakers, no. None of those teams below are anybody that I think is going to go. It's the Warriors that
Yeah,
have the
that's the
best
question,
chance.
right? You're taking the Warriors versus any of the top 4 right now. Like that's kind of what it is. It's like Warriors versus the field in a sense. If you were to take that, and you could sell me on it. Like I'd listen and I'd be like, okay, yeah, you're right. You know, they'll stay 5th or 6th and they'll end up, making their run like what they did last year, kind of, right? Where they weren't unexpected to make it that far, but it's like, oh yeah, it's the Warriors here. This just their road splits though. I don't get it. I was wrong. They beat Phoenix at home, so it wasn't on the road. And just to see that number is like, what? Yeah, they'd be the worst if they win the finals. They're the worst road team to ever win the finals. It's going to be the weirdest thing to me.
Here's the thing. Phoenix can certainly do it. I just don't know. And Kevin Durant is absolutely, everybody says the same thing. He's plug and play. He's the easiest guy to integrate. But I still think that in the playoffs, there's defensive schemes. There are certain things that you need to get a grasp on, and one or two little slips when you're still not familiar with everybody, that might be enough to cost the game. And if you cost one game, you could cost the series. I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna play out, but I'm still kind of not entirely sold on the Suns. Sacramento, I
want them to do it. If I'm rooting for a team that's not the Pelicans, it's probably going to be them because it's going to be the most amazing story ever. But they're the Kings, and like until they do it, we're not going to trust them, right?
Of course not. Like this, they're going to make the playoffs. It's pretty safe. They're going to make the playoffs. They're not going to, they're not going to collapse to a point. I don't think. I'm not jinxing you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to jinx you at all. But
Matt George about to come show up at your house tomorrow.
I think they're going to be fine. But can they make a deep run? I just don't think so. It's possible. I was listening to like Zach Lowe, and he's kind of laying on. There's a play.
No, they're pretty good, man. Like I've watched them a bunch.
Best offense in the league. They've got it, but they're the Kings, and they've got no experience, and they're still young. And hey, can they win the first round series? Sure, they can win the first round series. Can they get to the conference finals? There's an absolute plausible path for them to get to the finals. I mean, conference finals. I just don't believe in it. I don't believe in Memphis. I think their road, just assuming that Ja comes back, let's assume that he's back and fine. I don't trust them. Their half court offense is terrible, and they're not good on the road. So my decision is it's Denver and it's Golden State. And which one of those two teams is more trustworthy? And I want so badly to say Denver. I want it to be Denver. But if it gets to a conference finals and it's Denver and Golden State, I still trust Golden State.
No, I don't think you're wrong. That it's going to lead to interesting discourse at the end of the season if Denver kind of flames out of the postseason, even before that, right? If Jokic wins his 3rd straight MVP and they don't make a finals, oh boy, is that going to be an awful conversation. It's not necessarily incorrect to have some of that, right? But this is like, this might define Jokic's legacy in a sense outside of the MVPs. Whatever they do this postseason, because this is the one where we're going to look at and be like, he's got everyone healthy. Everyone's healthy on that team. He hasn't had kind of some of that complement of guys fully past couple of years, and now he's going to have them. So, oh man, for Jokic's sake, I hope they win in advance. He's got to make the finals on that, it feels like.
Yeah. First, Michael Malone after this game was awesome. Awesome post game. He kind of lit into the guys. He said we're in chill mode. He's like, we can't be playing like this now. I honestly, I believe 100% in what he said. The Nuggets are 46-23. They've got a 4-game lead over the Grizzlies, who are obviously going through their issues right now. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jokic is like, you know what? Screw the MVP. I don't want it. I don't even want it. I don't want to hear it. Give it to Joel because I've got a couple anyway. I don't care. I don't want to get the whatever bull that goes along with the 3. I don't want it. Joel can have it. I'm taking the next 6 games off, playing through whatever I'm playing through, and just kind of like going through the motions and whatever. I think they feel safe as the top seed. I think they feel like I think Jokic just doesn't give a damn, and he knows that he has to get to the finals. I think he's just saying, I am getting myself right. I'm making sure I'm 100%. I'm making sure that we are healthy. That's all I give a damn about right now. They can turn it on over the last week, and if Memphis does make a run, they can get it going again because Jokic is the engine that makes that run. So I feel like Denver has kind of turned down the volume, right? They or let off the gas.
Fair.
I think that's all this is. So I still haven't answered the question, real or fake.
Please do that.
I think it is. I think it is real. I think the Warriors end up. God, I can't believe I'm saying that, considering their horrible road record. But I think the Warriors figure it out and get back to the finals. God, man, it feels weird to say, but I'm gonna say real. I think I definitely think Denver is coasting right now. I don't know. I'm just going. This is completely based on history. I'm like a lawyer going on precedent, and that's it. I'm just leaning on precedent and saying Denver just not as trustworthy. Golden State is much more trustworthy. Steph Curry is still. You just saw what Steph Curry did against the Bucks a couple of days ago, going nuts, like 11 points in whatever, a couple of minutes in the fourth quarter. I just trust that. I just trust that in the clutch wherever they are. So that's where I am. All right, let's come back and let's discuss your team. You okay with that? Yeah, you are okay. You're going to be okay with it because we're doing it. It's happening. Sorry, it's happening. We'll do that in just a minute. First, let's talk about FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's America's #1 sportsbook. I know here in Massachusetts, they just legalized sports betting. So we're excited to get FanDuel available here in Massachusetts. A lot of other states are just getting people up to speed here. And if you're a new customer, that's awesome because you get a no sweat first bet of up to $1,000 on FanDuel. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Download FanDuel. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on everything, whatever you want. Money line, point scores, 3-pointers drain. Matt Moore on yesterday's show put a very good reason they can let you parlay awards so you can combine your awards choices into a possibility of a pretty good payout there. You get bigger payouts with the same game parlay on FanDuel. So don't miss your chance for your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We just ask you to please gamble responsibly. We also ask you to check out our shows, Locked On Pelicans, Locked On Celtics. You want to know what's going on with the Celtics? Oh, I got plenty of those, plenty of thoughts. Jake Madison just finished recording Locked On Pelicans. But we're going to get our little exclusive here. Jake, the Pelicans were, I know that you guys have gone through some injuries and stuff, but to be outside of the play-in tournament, when things were going great earlier this year, we did a show at the early part of the season where the Pelicans were the top seed in the West. I remember you crashing my podcast.
Oh, that was fun. Oh, yeah, man, I forgot about that. That was awesome.
That gave the Pelicans the top seed, and things were going great. Everything was fine.
That was a good bit, wasn't it? That was a good bit.
That
the
was
ring and everything in there. That was a great
one.
I
added a phone sound effect. It sounded like my acting chops.
Man, that feels like it was forever ago.
My phone. Hello? I did. We just had the Oscars. Where's that category? Acting on best actor on a podcast. No.
It'd go to you.
I'm certainly not going to win for best visual effects the way this thing is going on right now. But anyway, Jake, what the hell happened? What happened to you guys?
Where do we even begin? There's a lot, right? Like they just got waxed by the Lakers. Lakers got out to a 14-0 lead, and this team just basically quit, as you mentioned in the open, a 52-10 run against a team with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum out there on the court, right? Like you can point to injuries, and we should start there. This team was built around Zion Williamson, and Zion Williamson has been dealing with a hamstring injury and other injuries this season and just simply hasn't played enough games. He's played under 30. There's just not a whole lot you can do when the team is built around him, and he is that special of a player, but he has played in 29 games this year. That's just going to kill you. That said, they weathered some injuries throughout the season. They, were first in the West. They were third in the West for a while before just going on a skid. And since the Zion injury, the only teams that have been worse than them are the Pistons, the Bobcats, and I think the Houston Rockets in terms of record. That's how bad things have gotten. Part of it is also Brandon Ingram missed 29 straight games with a toe contusion. And when you look at Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Zion Williamson, they've only played 10 games together this season.
Yeah.
It's just, what are you supposed to do, right? And so injuries have been a big part of it. But that said, they should be better than they are. They shouldn't be on the outside looking in. They shouldn't be 3-7 in their last 10. They shouldn't be 33-36 right now. There's enough talent here to make a run. They did it last year without Zion Williamson, making a run to get into the play-in tournament, winning their 2 games in the play-in tournament to get into the postseason without Zion. But what happened, and this goes to coaching, and I think you're seeing some of this too with Joe Mazzulla over in Boston, was the offense was built around Zion Williamson, and they've just never adapted to him not being there. You saw them beat the Portland Trail Blazers on Sunday night with a ton of ball movement, had 35, 36 assists in that game. And then this one against the Lakers, they were just ripping threes, contested threes, open threes, didn't matter. Just no ball movement. One guy gets the ball, gets a little bit of space, takes the shot, and it's just super easy to defend. And they're not a good shooting team because of that. They had 23 assists in this game. There's a stark difference there. So to not kind of make those type of adjustments has seen the offense just completely fall apart. They miss shots. They turn the ball over. It means they're playing transition defense, which is tougher to do. So it's just gifting easy scoring opportunities to your opponent. It's basically terrible offense turns into terrible defense. And that's been their problem for like 2 months now.
Are they going to do you think they can get back on track for next season? Can the Pelicans get back to that team? We talked a little bit about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
They were, because we went into the whole OKC thing. But this isn't where the Pelicans were expected to be, obviously.
No.
But the Sacramento Kings are suddenly like, oh, they're pretty good. They figure themselves out. That's kind of where we thought the Pelicans were going to be. Can the Pelicans get themselves into this mix as maybe one of these other teams kind of falls apart? Eventually, the Warriors are going to age out. Eventually, the Clippers are going to age out. Something's going to happen here that shakes things up. The Lakers are going to eventually, like, all of that.
So you're talking like subsequent seasons from now, not will they get Zion back and play well this year?
I mean, I guess we can ask that question too. Is Zion going to come back this year?
It's a good question. Everything I've gotten from talking to the team and talking to people at the game on Tuesday night in the arena, they're hopeful. They're hopeful they might be able to get 3-4 games out of him potentially before the end of the regular season. Like, there's been no indication to me, and I'm talking to as many people as I can about this, that they're shutting him down for the year, that he won't return. It's a hamstring injury. They're tricky. He could have a setback. He was playing 3-on-3 coming back from it, and then it kind of reoccurred. There's not a whole lot you can do, and these are tricky injuries. So as of now, they're hopeful he will play. So to answer your other question, it comes down to this, and this is something that's going to be a big topic of mine in the offseason for Locked On Pelicans is, they can get to where the Sacramento Kings are. The Kings are there, one, because they're good, but also they've been one of the healthiest teams in the West all year.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox has been very healthy. Sabonis, while playing through an injury, is playing. They've been really healthy. That's worth keeping in mind when you look at that team, more so than any of those other teams in the Western Conference. If you're going to tell me that Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram are going to play 80% of the Pelicans games next season, this team's a top 4 seed in the West, no problem. No problem, as they're currently constructed. if it's going to be under 30 games each, under half of the season each, or what one's in and one's out, and then they kind of reverse places, I don't know. And the big question, and this is going to be the question that looms over the team this offseason, can you bank on that? Can you bank on it? Zion has played one relatively healthy season in the NBA out of 4. He is an otherworld talent. I don't think these injuries are truly connected, but can you bank on that? Brandon Ingram has had trouble staying healthy. Takes a long while to recover from some of these injuries, right? 31 games this season, 55 games last season. You know, he's only played above 70 games once in his career. There's patterns here, and it kills your team building and just makes it tough to kind of rely on those guys. But like, can you trade them? Yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. Right?
24 games for Zion in his rookie year, 61 in his second year.
And that was in the shortened season. Yep. Keep that in mind.
Didn't play last season and has played 29 games this season. 4 years in the league, 114 games. That's it. That's the question about Zion is his body built for this? His body, it's almost as if it's too explosive. He's too athletic, too good for his body to handle, because jumping with that amount of weight puts look, as insane an athlete as he is, tendons are tendons, right? Ligaments are ligaments, and they can only withstand so much torque. And maybe his can withstand a little bit more, but when you're just built like that and you run and jump and dunk like that, and you do it at the NBA level as often as you do, it's tough, man. It's tough to be reliant on that level of athleticism at that size for an extended period of time. It's just I don't know how he's going to get healthy. And I just can never, I don't know if I can ever trust him to play a significant amount of games. Like, what's the most, if you tell me right now to put an over under on the most games he's ever going to play in a season moving forward, I might say 60.
Yeah, it's brutal, right? Like, it's brutal. What can you do? And he's so good when he's out there. He elevates everything. He's unstoppable. He's unstoppable. This guy shoots 70% at the rim, right? He scores more in the paint than Giannis does. Yeah. So you raise a valid question. And some people are going to take what you said and you didn't mean it this way, of like a fat thing, right? That's been kind of the thing around him. And you're not talking about it like that. You're talking kind of like pure
fat.
force.
It's just about, he's just a large person in general.
Because he was slim and in shape this year. Like, he's looked amazing. And
even when he's slim and in shape, I'm sorry to interrupt, but even when he's slim and in shape, he's a large person. That's just what he's built. I'm not sitting there saying he's fat. I'm not fat.
No, I hear that all the time around him. So I wanted to clarify that point.
Like, I appreciate that. Even when he's skinny and in shape, or whatever you want to call it, even when he's the most svelte version of Zion, is still a big guy, and that's just how he is.
He's a freak. You look at some of the pictures of his biceps, and it's like, oh my God, like, that's a human here. So it's the force, right? And it's the way he plays, and those two things combined, I think, can be a problem. If you go back to the postseason last year, he wanted to play against the Phoenix Suns. And they were like, you're not cleared, you're not ready to do it. He posted a video of him doing a dunk to kind of like maybe put some pressure on the organization to do it. Go watch that video if you're listening to this, and look at when he takes off and lands, and look at the bend in the court.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the bend in the court. Now, a lot of the NBA courts have a good amount of like leeway in them to like help the players land, but this thing goes down like 3 inches when he comes down on the wood. It's insane. It tells you the force that dude is landing with, which puts a toll on your body. He also, look, he rarely shoots threes. There's no mid-range game here. It's him attacking the basket, which means you're going through contact, you're going through bodies. That takes a toll on you as well, right? When he's going to the line, it's because he's getting fouled. Yeah. And they don't call all of the fouls against him because it would be so many, because he forces so much contact. That takes a toll. It's those things. Like, the problem with the Pelicans is availability. The team works when Zion's out there. He's not. The team can work when Brandon Ingram's out there too, if they do it right with off-ball movement, but he has issues with it. So when your best players just don't play, It's like the shrug emoji, right?
Right.
Like, what am I supposed to do here?
At one point in this game against the Lakers, they gave up a 52-10 run.
This shouldn't be that bad. This shouldn't be that bad.
52-10 to the Lakers without LeBron. I mean, come on. The Lakers are fighting. They're fighting. Good for them for fighting.
They're competitive.
They're competitive. Good for Anthony Davis. Good for those guys. But 52-10 run is one of the most outrageous things I've ever heard. I'm sorry. All right. Much more on the Locked On Pelicans podcast. So you can follow Jake there. I'm John Karalis, John_Karalis on Twitter, Locked On Celtics. He's Jake at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Sorry, I stole your words because
that's all
I backed
good.
myself into a corner here, already teasing your podcast. But you talk for that entire segment, so I think you're fine.
That's okay.
Yeah, considering the Pelicans injury luck, I expect you to be out 3 weeks with strained vocal cords after that. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for sharing the podcast and telling your friends and family and everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.